Now, I would like to introduce you this meeting. With a very few words, we are discussing inclusive education, the status of inclusive education in Europe after 1 year of COVID. And we will discuss this with different representatives from service providers and from other stakeholders, including family organizations. But I will leave the word to the formal opening to Miguel Valles, speaking from Portugal, and who is the chair of the Member Forum on Education.
Thank you, Irene. Hello, everyone. It is a delight to be here in this webinar, speaking about a subject that we are all passionate about, inclusive education. So this theme is the point exactly that 1 year has passed incredibly after since the COVID, but I can assure you that 1 year has passed for us, but not for the persons or the children that we support. I can assure you that for the children that we support in schools, some of them, it has been a lifetime, even mainly from the early ages of education, of formal education. So this has been a significant impact on all children that are in schools, and specifically those that we support. In Portugal, I'm Miguel, as Irene said. I'm from Portugal, and we have made the necessary steps to transform all our special schools into resource centers to support mainstream public schools. So this has been a task and our work for 12 years now, and what we faced upon the first wave and the first confinement that was very quick, and it happened suddenly to schools. It was from one day to another. In Portugal, it was somewhat a bit different from other countries, because we decreed the full confinement and closure of schools when we only had less than 10 confirmed cases of COVID. So it was quite sudden, and schools weren't ready. So what we are faced when schools closed down from this first wave, so in March, it has been 1 year now. What we felt is that all the work done for 12 years was put on the line, and then we could watch all those weak links and those warnings that we have been warning our ministry and school boards of the full inclusive education system. It works on paper. It's the law really states and is the correct interpretation from the UN Convention. However, the practices are not embedded in the school system, are not part of the education system, and this was really highlighted again, and through this major crisis that was COVID. So what we watched was children that lost contact with schools. We watched early school leaving, even early school leaving not quite identified by schools, meaning that children were leaving schools, were leaving the school system without the knowledge of the school. So this was quite dramatic, and I think we learned from that first wave of confinement. And on the second wave, then Portugal really struggled since Christmas, because we had this very high numbers, and it was quite a dramatic situation. But now we saw the education system react in the correct way. and focusing on children with special needs and their needs and their situation that homeschooling is not okay for some children. So we saw schools opening directly from children with special needs. However, there is still room for improvement, but we saw that. So this was our experience. It was a very dramatic passage for some children that we support, and now with the new disability strategy that is being implemented, now there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So we are looking forward to really translate what the disability strategy targets and start working from there. So it will be wonderful to watch and listen on other strategies and what other countries have done and their point views and what we can learn from each other. And this is mainly the objective of this webinar. So I welcome everyone. I will watch this very closely because it's also my personal interest to see how can we do better and what can we learn from each other. So Irene, thank you very much for this opportunity to make this introduction. And I wish you all a wonderful work, and I'll be here to answer also a few questions if they arise. So thank you everyone. Have a wonderful webinar.
Thanks a lot, Miguel. So yeah, as Miguel pointed out, it is true that the disability strategy is pointing out in between the other section also inclusive education, which is something very positive also because there is on the one hand the acknowledgement of the fact that there is a big gap in between education for children with disabilities and the rest. And also that the gap is not only about the access to education, but the access to mainstream education. And there is also some suggestion to the member states to work towards it. So having said that, I would like to, we will together try to see in the different parts of Europe what happened with COVID and with access to education. And we start from Belgium with Annemie Jannes that will talk to us about the situation, about the inclusion of children with disabilities into education and the role of support services. The floor is yours, Annemie.
Thank you very much. I will share my PowerPoint presentation with you. I hope you can see it. Okay, thanks you. Thanks for inviting me and talk to you about the state of the art in Flanders in Belgium. First, about the organization I work for. It's Catholic Education in Flanders. We are a very big membership organization of schools, schools, the kindergartens, the primary schools, secondary schools. We have also 200 special needs schools and a lot of other schools. So more than 2,000 schools and about 1 million of pupils and students. And this is in the northern half of Belgium. Just to situate the organization I work for. What about Corona? What about the pandemic and education in Flanders? Last year, we also had a lockdown from about 1 year ago, from March until the end of June. And now for this school year, the kindergartens and the primary schools, they fully opened again, starting from the first school day, and that is on the 1st of September. For secondary education, it's a little bit a different story. They also opened full time from September until the 1st of November. And then that's the date where in Belgium the third wave of Corona started. We had increasing numbers of people who got Corona also in the hospitals. And that's why the government decided to have 2 weeks of holidays instead of 1 week. So then all the schools were closed, also the kindergartens and the primary schools. Also the special schools, all the schools were closed for 2 weeks. This was difficult for parents because it was a very short time decision. So instead of 1 week, they had to take care of their children for 2 weeks. Then for the secondary schools, from the 16th of November, they introduced a part-time school system. So half of the time the students can go to the school, and half time they are at home, and they get, we call it distance learning. They make exercises at home. Sometimes they get a live session on the computer, but it's not for all the subjects. There are different systems. There are schools who organize 1 week of school and 1 week at home. Or there are schools who organize 1 day school, 1 day at home, 1 day school, 1 day at home, and so on. It's very different between the secondary schools. Today, we have got some good news. The government decided today that the second grade will reopen full time from the 29th of March, and the third grade after Easter holidays. But there is resistance from the teacher unions because still a lot of adults have Corona and they are afraid of the numbers. We will see. The government has decided that the schools will reopen. Now it's depending on the local situation of the different schools, whether they can reopen full time or not. From the 15th of March, the special secondary schools will reopen also full time. So for kindergartens and primary schools, they stayed open this school year, also the special kindergartens and primary schools. There was a question, a parliamentary question to the Minister of Education, and it was very recently also in the press. And I will show you some facts, and we are really concerned about the well-being of the students and the children. There are a lot of problems, as you can see to the figures here. There is an increase from reported cases of suspicion of child abuse. It's an increase from 15,170 cases to 20,940 cases. That's a lot. There is also an increase from mandatory involvement of youth care. It doubles from about 600, 700 cases to 1,200 cases. And also, and that's really astonishing, more files to the Public Prosecutor's Office, an increase from 39 files to 305 files. And it was also in the press today. The question is this the tip of the iceberg? We are talking about reported cases, about official figures, but we know that in reality, it's even worse. So that's also one of the reasons why the government decided to reopen the secondary schools full time, because there are many problems, a lot of depression, a lot of problems. So we know that schools are very essential, not only for learning, but especially for social learning and living together. See friends, meet friends, make pleasure. It's really important. What we know today is that there is a learning delay among all students. It's a big learning delay, about 6 months. And even with the full-time education now, there is still a learning delay from 6 months. The universities who have studied that, it's in all levels of education, from kindergarten up till secondary education. Many more problems for students with special educational needs. And there's also a study that shows that there is the biggest learning delay for science and technical subjects. Then for Dutch, that's our mother tongue. For French, that's our second language, and mathematics. We also have support networks that are teachers and paramedics from special schools who go to the mainstream schools to support the teachers and the students. It's very important that the government decided that the support teachers are allowed in the schools at all times, no matter in what pandemic phase we are, but it depends on the local safety measures. Some schools do not allow them because it's not safe according to them. But in principle, they are allowed in the schools. It also has an impact on the number of schools, the number of pupils that they can support. This number is limited, is reduced. So there is also a lot of support at distance by the computer, and we experience that it's difficult for the students with special needs to have this support at a distance by the computer. We experience that much more support is needed. There are much more requests for supports, especially in secondary education. And we think that's also because they are closed part of the time. And now the government has set up a relance plan, and they have now put already extra resources for the pedagogical advisors with a special assignment to remediate the learning delay. And they will also set up other projects, for instance, about digitalizations, computers for all, and learning how to use them. So this was the state of the art in Flanders. It's not a very positive story, but we hope that with the reopening of all schools, that the students will not only focus on learning, but also especially on living together and learning together and playing with friends, because it's really essential for a good life. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Annemie. Yeah, it was a very interesting presentation, and we could see how the situation changed across time. Also some alarming information about the risk of child abuse. I also saw in the chat that there is someone asking if this is happening as well in other countries in Europe. We will have time to answer this later. And we could see that it is a learning delay for everyone and an alarming risk for losing the support for children with special needs in the schools where this was not allowed. So we are moving now up north to Katri, that will speak to us about the situation and the challenges in Finland. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Irene. And it's nice to see you all there. I will also share my PowerPoint, so just a minute. Here. So greetings from the Northern Europe, from Finland. I just said that we have at the moment -25 degrees here, so it's a little bit different, the atmosphere, than in the other Europe countries. But I come from the Service Foundation for People with an Intellectual Disability, so it's a family-based NGO here in Finland. Can't change my slides. No. So just some numbers from Finland, so you can understand what I'm talking about. So as we said, we are from the Northern Europe, this blue country there. It's quite as a country, it's quite a big, but we have only 5.5 million inhabitants here, and approximately 570,000 pupils in the comprehensive schools. From those, about 48,000 pupils are receiving the special support, and about 10,400 children of those are having some kind of disability. And we still have the special schools, and it's about 3,600 pupils in the separate special schools. In Finland, we have our own support model, that it's in this triangle in the 3 different levels. The lowest level is the general support, and that's the support that all the pupils can have. So we think that all the pupils have the right to have a high quality education, and also to get the support to get it. But if it's not enough for the pupil, they can get also the intensified support. In Finland, it's about 65,000 pupils who are getting this intensified support. It's not the special schools, it's in the mainstream schools, but it's the support that they can get regular, and also maybe some different several forms of the support. And then the last level, the highest level, is the special support. And in this category, there is also the children with the disabilities. In Finland, we have had quite a good situation. So we had the homeschooling only for 2 months. So it's not a big or long period in the last spring. But anyway, we also have had quite a lot of research that how has it affected to the youngsters and to the children. But all the time when we had this homeschooling, the pupils with the special needs, the pupils who were in the special support in the triangle, they had the possibility also to have the contact teaching in their local schools. But in the reality, there were many children that didn't use this opportunity because they were afraid of the risk to get the virus, or they had some risks in the families, or there also have been some social reasons to stay home when they had the possibility. So the situation was that the teachers had to handle both the teaching online and also in the classroom, and it was really heavy for the teachers also. Those pupils who were at home in the homeschoolings, they didn't get any other support than the teacher's support. They didn't have any supervisors, assistants there. So it was quite a lot, the responsibility for the families to take care of the learning also. And the children, they think that they got less teaching than in normal situation, and the same happened. And Anemi told that the delay in the learning was quite a big. And for the families, the period of the homeschooling, it was really heavy. In the lockdown closed also the respite care services, so the parents didn't get any help from the others, so they were 24/7 taking care of the special children. And when you add the working and taking care of the school, it was really heavy for them. And also using the digital equipment wasn't easy for all the families. And in Finland, we have also, I think in other countries too, but we have also many families with several children who have special needs. So it was really tough for them. And I think also the differences between the families, of course, and between the municipalities was quite big. In Finland, the municipalities take care of the education, and because the country is quite large, we really have many different kinds of taking care of that. And also the teachers had different competencies to take care of the online teaching, and also the technicalities was really different ways to take care. So some children, they got the teaching, for example, like 5 hours a day, and for some children, they only got some messages that do this homework or do these activities at home and then send me something. So it really differs from different municipalities. But it's also seen that for some children, the homeschooling was a good experience. I think especially for the children who are in the autism spectrum, it can be helpful to be home, to have this calm atmosphere, and to do in own, to not to have hurry. For example, in the exercises, you really have to do that at school. You don't have any noise around you, and also those children who suffer from the bullying. So there's also good experiences. And the family said that even that it was really hard time, the evenings at home were more stressless because the children wasn't the days in the school and in this atmosphere in the big school. So it can be also, it can have been also the better time. But what have we learned of this time? I think that the holistic approach is very important in every situations, in the special with the children with the special needs, but also for the others. For example, in those 2 months, there were families who were really alone. They didn't get any support, and it also caused that the children didn't get any contact to the schools if they didn't have the possibility to get the support, or they had some problems with the techniques. So they were really alone. And in the future, there must be the way of learning and also teaching methods and also environments. In Finland, we have at the moment quite big schools. We have closed the little schools, and I think that we are all the time going to the bigger and bigger schools and also to the bigger and bigger classes. And people with the special needs, they are really suffering from that. So I think this has shown that, for example, for those who have better time in the homeschooling, it's really important to take care that they who suffer from the other students, they can have possibilities to other kind of environments. And the strong contact between pupils and the schools is needed, and also with the schools and the whole family, so that they don't live alone if they have some kind of problems there. And the equality between the families and the municipalities, I think it's something that really is important in Finland, because we have the long distances, for example, in the northern Finland. So there's really a big problems in the equality. And the last thing about this is that the inclusion, it really doesn't come through without investing. We really have to think about it. And in this period of COVID-19, we have learned many things, but we really have to now to stop only talking about the inclusion, but we really have to start to make cooperation with the schools, with the families, with the service providers, so that we really can find out that what's the role for all of them, and what we are expecting from each other, so that we really can have the inclusion in the schools in the future, and so that all the children can be able to be in the mainstream schools, but get all the support that they are needed. If we say that it's the right to get the support, we really have to offer it for them. So that's about the Finland from the north. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Katri, for this very interesting overview about Finland. We heard a lot about the lack of equality, and that's interesting as the disability strategy title is Union of Equality. So really, this is something that should be addressed and that was undermined by the COVID situation. We could also hear that teachers and parents were those who had the biggest burden to carry in this situation. It was alarming, the lack of respite services, and it could be interesting to hear from other countries if this was also the case. And yeah, general fragmentation in the situation around the country, depending on the municipalities and on the families, which shouldn't happen. Then we had in the chat a proposal from Luke saying that why is nobody proposing to shorten the summer holidays and opening the schools then? Well, actually, this was proposed, for example, in Italy by the new Prime Minister, Mario Draghi. But there was a lot of debate because it's not so easy to change the things, and also like the trade unions of teachers were not really happy about this. So sometimes some ideas that sound very good can be then a bit difficult to implement, but for sure a debate about it is something that is interesting to have. Okay, so now we can move to the eastern part of Europe with Adriana Barlogova from Senenet in Slovakia. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Irene, for introducing me. I will also share my screen just for my bullet points. Give me a moment. All right, right now you should be able to see it. Great. So I'm Adriana. I'm a psychologist in Tenenet. Tenenet is working in many different ways. So just so you know what's my role in that, we are an NGO, and I'm working there as a psychologist for families struggling with basically anything in their life. So they can have social economic issues, or they might be in some kind of a divorce situation. And on the other hand, I'm working with disabled children, mostly with children with autism spectrum disorder, as a therapist. So you have some brief introduction about me. So Slovakia was kind of different from every other country in the world, because in the first wave of COVID, we had so little cases. We basically locked down the country from beginning of March, like everybody else, but we had, like, I would say at the top 50 cases per day, and we have very few very few people with COVID in hospitals. So we had the quite calm March, April, and May. So the first wave, I would say. But that was the time that all schools were closed. Basically, everything was closed then. So for 3 months, very little education was provided to the students, because as in every other country, everybody was in a hurry to make something, and it was not in every school, it was something different. So we didn't have guidelines, we didn't have basically anything we can do or we can catch on. So that was the situation then. We opened schools around mid of June. I think that we opened every school back then to make sure that some students will graduate, and also some ending tests happened. Then we thought that we have COVID covered. So we had a great summer. Everything was open. Everything was working. And the second wave, I would say that it surprised everybody here, from the government to schools and also to us people. We were expecting it, but not that hard, that it will hit us not that hard. From the September, schools were opened. I think most of them were open, maybe universities not, but most of the schools were open for the present learning. And they were closing and opening every week or 2 weeks based on the positive cases of children or teachers in the school. So it was kind of a chaotic environment for parents and also for, of course, for children. So what's happening now? From the 1st of October, or I would say beginning of October, we have most students in long distance teaching. Most because we have the first grade till the 4th grade. So we can say 6 years to 10 years. Those children are mostly in school. From September, they had some lockdowns, or some schools were closed also for them. But the point here is that the secondary education from the 5th grade, basically also with the universities and high school, they are closed from beginning of October till end of February. So that's a very, very long time for those children that have to be in long distance teaching. Right now, we are in, I would say, a better phase with this, because we have guidelines now, some guidelines. We have, our government calls it the COVID automat. We have divided our country in some areas, and we are taking care of those areas in isolation, I would say. So we have few areas that are in a black zone. We are saying that they don't have kindergartens open, they don't have any school open, only for those children that have parents working full-time, not from home. So they have to be in schools. But the reality of this is that teachers are not able to provide also online learning and also the in-person learning. So so the reality is that our government set up some rules like this, but the school is responsible for doing what they think is the best for the students. So it really differs from school to school. In the guideline, I will cover one topic, the official guideline for teachers and LSAs that were made by the government for school year 2020 and 2021. Learning assistants are responsible in distance learning for 3 things. The first thing is teacher support. So they should help in creating teaching material for students, help in evaluating students based on guidance from teachers. Then secondly, the student support. So they should assist in fulfilling distance tasks, explanation and clarification of assignments, assistant in solving tasks, and they are doing this through phone or internet, and also in person. I will be there in a minute. But the first thing the LSAs are responsible for is support for the students without access to technologies, because this is happening in Slovakia a lot. That not every child has internet connection, stable internet connection for doing this. So the LSAs are responsible also for distribution of materials and their subsequent collection. To underline this, a lot of schools are in the state that some children don't have the online teaching at all. They are only distributing papers with tasks that the student should fill in a week and then collect the papers. So I'm working with one child, a 13-year-old, that wasn't in touch with online learning in 5 months because she is only doing paper assignments. So what is good? We have platform of parents for children with disabilities that they created a line. It's there in Inclulinka, and the translation is Incluline, where is a very extended section for supporting parents in this difficult situation with homeschooling. So they are doing resources, they're helping parents in every way they can. The second portal we have is the closed school. It's zavretaškola.sk, and there are a lot of materials for parents to homeschool their children, their activities, games, and so on. So, well, the regulation mentions that if the child is not able to have homeschooling by themselves or with their parent, they can contact a social service provider. So there are a lot of children that don't have the supporting environment at home. So as I recall, we don't have any organization that really is responsible for this, like in general. So I think that these social service providers are only provided to the family when the school happens to be in touch with the kid that is not going to school or not doing the assignment. So they are then contacting the official institution of work and school in Slovakia. Well, so to summarize this, also in Slovakia, there is a lot of pressure on parents, a lot of pressure on teachers, and also LSAs. It really depends mostly on the school right now because we don't have the clear rule here how we should behave. So it's very, very different in the regions and also in schools. So as the regulations from government aren't specific enough and the school is responsible, this is the main thing that right now is affecting the students. All students, also students with disabilities. As I think Katri were mentioning, we also have special schools and we have general schools. So right now the special schools should be open, and the good thing is that all teachers can be vaccinated. From I think the end of February, they have this opportunity. So we are in a starting point right now, and we hope that this will be really a starting point and children will be back in school shortly. But from my experience, I would say that the child with disability that is lucky enough to have a supporting family and a good school is supported, let's say, enough with only the few months gap of education. But if this isn't the case, I would say that the education suffers a lot, maybe also a lot more than a half of a year. And the mental health of the kids is, of course, suffering from the beginning of this pandemic. So I don't know what the key action is, but I know for sure that we learned from this the importance of a family support and of a cooperation between family and school, because right now the most of the pressure is on the family. So I think this is it from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adriana. Very interesting presentation also from your side. For sure, the lack of guidelines was something that happened there, but not only Slovakia. In many countries, there was a short-term approach from the political side, somehow as the idea of having a long-term situation of long distance was something that they didn't want to accept. So we also saw in other countries that the summer was seen as something that was perceived as the end of the pandemic, and then it started all again. And the opportunity of creating some long-term solution was a bit missed. Then again, we had stress on the fact that families and teachers were those who had the biggest responsibility, and then we also had from the chat something that adds to this about the importance for the children of the relationship component. So of course, that's also why there is a lot of importance in the vaccines process in order to go back to a physical way to have education delivered. So thanks a lot. This is all from our tour of Europe. I think that it was very interesting, and there are some questions in the Q&A box that I hope we will have the time to address together. So we mentioned a lot the families, the need of cooperation with the families, the stress, the burden on families, and now we will pass the word to Camille Roux, who is representing COFACE Families Europe, which is the network of family organizations in Europe.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Irene, and thanks for the invitation as well. I'm very glad to be here today to represent COFACE Family Europe. We are a network of civil society organizations representing family without discrimination across 23 countries. So we work on a work branch of topic affecting family life and of course, inclusive education and the right of children and persons with disability are among them. It was really great to hear about the different situation in Europe. Well, great is not really the right term, but it really echoed what we heard from our member over the past months. And yeah, I just can relate with what the fellow speaker have said. As 1 year ago, everything kind of brutally stopped when we became the epicenter of this pandemic. And during this crisis, we've seen highlighted the gap that were already existing in our system, including our education system all over Europe. I think that it's been said by the other speaker, we can witness some of the immediate effects that this situation have had on children and families, but some long-term consequences I fear still need to be assessed. And of course, well, as this crisis magnified existing inequality, children with disability and their family were further affected. In Spain, the Spanish Confederation of Family of Deaf People, FIAPAS, one of our members, pointed out through the different phase of the crisis, the lack of appropriate solution provided. So it's important to know that prior to the crisis, around 95% of children with hearing disability were actually enrolled in mainstream school system in Spain. But of course, when we arrived on the online environment, all the support that they were